Wszystko zaczęło się od króla Jagiełły. Mała Łodzia stała się miastem, które w XIX wieku rozwijało się najszybciej na świecie. W ciągu zaledwie 60 lat od powstania pierwszej manufaktury powstaje przemysłowa, wielonarodowościowa metropolia. Jednak wiatry historii nie zawsze jej sprzyjały. To, co zniszczył los, odbudowują łodzianie. Nasza Łódź. Miasto wielkich szans. Od 600 lat w sercu Polski i Europy.
Jesteśmy Polakami. Jesteśmy niezwykłym społeczeństwem. Zawsze w obliczu wielkiego wyzwania potrafimy się mobilizować. Potrafimy stawić czoła wielkim wyzwaniom. Bo nie potrafimy stać obojętnie. Bo obchodzi nas bezpieczeństwo i przyszłość naszych dzieci. Bo wierzymy, że nadzieja zwycięża apatię, lęk i strach. Bo mimo wszelkich przeciwności nigdy się nie poddajemy. Potrafimy ciężko pracować, wspierać się i działać razem. Bo zależy nam na naszej ojczyźnie, naszym osiedlu, naszej ulicy. Bo chcemy naszych niezbywalnych praw i wolności. Bo nie oddamy naszych marzeń. Nadchodzi punkt zwrotny.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this panel. My name is Anna Materska-Sosnowska, and I'm acting as the person who was in charge of the Batory Foundation report. And together with my guests and authors of this report, to present you the Index of Self-Governance based on data from 2022. This is a promotion of this report. Should you be interested in it, right at the entry you will find the report. Feel free. It's another index prepared by the foundation. In a moment you will hear about it from Professor Marta Lackowska from the Warsaw University. So she is the main co-author of the work. Next to me there is Professor Gendzwiłł, co-author of this report. There are renowned representatives of local authorities who will criticize our work. Namely, I've just lost a slip with the names. Let me then welcome there it is. Let me welcome Łukasz Konarski, Deputy Mayor of the City of Zawiercie. Sorry, the Mayor of Zawiercie. Then Joanna Wons-Kleta, the Mayoress of Pawonków municipality. We have this nice feminative mayoress here, and the first deputy mayor of Łódź, Mr. Pustelnik. Thank you for your hospitality. A round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, well, I'd like to invite Ms. Lackowska to deliver the report. It may be far more comfortable for you if we leave the stage for a moment to reveal the screen for the audience, but as the saying goes, we'll be back.
Rozumiem, że teraz ja tam.
I understand. I take the control now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure and honor to me to present the outcome of the work of a 5-person team. The names are hidden behind the chair, say for mine, but we are an interdisciplinary team, a lawyer, economist, sociologist, and me, geographist, dealing with local authorities. And in the beginning of this year, we developed a tool to measure the level of local autonomy, municipalities and county cities. We first carried out the research for 2014 and 2022, and what you've just 21, and what you are going to see is what we have done for the data of 2022. Initially, I would like to present the index for those of you who didn't follow the first edition. I decided to Can you see now? Perfect. Once again, I hope the clicker reaches. So we have the 3 or 4 components of what we were trying to investigate, and that is important because our research resulted from observations. You can find anecdotic. Something has changed here. We had Wody Polskie established, the curator has more authority, and those fragmentary components that put together the image of reducing local authority, reducing decentralization, needed to be taken in systemic frameworks and see how that all together gives the overall level of local autonomy. That's why we see so many components in here. We had a look at tasks. We looked at finances. And in financing, we took into consideration the structure, that is, how far local authorities can decide how they can spend the money. It's not merely the size, but also own income against dedicated money. And 2 interesting elements that we took them at all here: political strength, which is an indicator, shows how far the local authorities are treated in partnership, how far their opinion is considered for legislation. We have this Commission of the Government and Local Governments, and how far customer-centric, or to the contrary, the central money is distributed. Last item is the systemic strength, which is how local authority is fitted into the system, into the state system. We also took into consideration the supervision quality of a local authority. We mean here local governors. All that was milled and calculated. You can see that finance and task potential is 50% of the value. Political force and systemic force contribute further 50% in halves. What we had in the initial 7-8 years was a curious image that shows very well how re-centralization looks in Poland. It's in white gloves. If you look at tasks and finances, the change of that index which goes between 0 and 100, is not large. A couple of percent in tasks, 11% in finance, a bit more in the systemic strength, and what is interesting, the political strength, how subjectivity of treating the local authority goes very low, by 50% compared to 2014. What happened when we added onto that the data from 2022 sort of confirmed the trend. In finance and tasks, we recorded no change during that year, which means there were none. There were some minor. You can read the report in detail, but what was strongly recorded is again the change in the political strength. It has dropped significantly if you consider it's only 1 year. So a very moving picture. Systemic strength was mainly the supervision of governors that is being enhanced. So this is the image of the components we tested. What did we get in total? After calculating and recalculating, we have a drastic drop, and its pace of falling is increasing. When you look at the scale of the academic assessment in 2014, it wasn't excellent. It was an indicator that in the context of a perfect situation can reach 100, and we were pretty far away from that. But it would be a good B grade, I should say. And in the 7 years, we went down by 18 percentage points. And in the year's time, for another 4 percentage points, we are at the edge of pass credit. It's just half with a minimum above it. It sounds alarming and interesting in terms of research, because the different components creating the autonomy were included. One more thing, we will talk. You've heard about the increasing pace of falling autonomy. We can skip this, but as I told you, I'm in a rush. I'm losing my breath. That's just because of the misclicking clicker. And I think it may be a good idea to have a closer look at some components that look interesting. In this jigsaw puzzle, you can speak of different tasks, as you could see in the previous slide. But what is also very, very important is the financial aspect. And it is fascinating that in the past year, the change in the financing index was not recorded. That doesn't mean they were not there, but they were safe annulling en bloc. The revenue at the local authorities' disposal decreased. That also decreased because if we see at the share of local authority spendings in the state budget, but the change was in favor of local autonomy. Different subsidies and transfers were falling faster than own income. So the share of own income went up in the smaller cake. And that's why in total the indicator remained intact. That shows that this is an extremely complex phenomenon which, despite such extended methodology, may be ignored. We also worked out the financial autonomy index calculated from the total that could be differentiated for municipalities, and we see that in the western regions is a bit better than in the eastern regions. The image is highly differentiated. You will see it soon on our website. It would be clickable and you can go further into detail. What is also interesting is to see the political strength component, that is subjective treatment of local authorities. It's worth noting how different compositions of the parliament treated the joint committee of the government and local governments. You will see percentage, well, 100% all acts of law regarding local authority, and it's our expert opinion if one affects local authority or not. What interesting happened is line in the middle that shows something that shouldn't happen. That means processing a government project regarding local governments without sending it to the joint committee is 1/3 of all the laws finally adopted regarding local governance. Well, formally it's against the law. And now we are in 1/3 of all acts. The two other lines, the first and third, stay the same, more or less. There are different fluctuations, but there are methods to pass by the joint committee. Processing law as the MP's project, and it doesn't have to be referred to the committee. Sometimes there are situations where, despite a negative opinion, the law is approved. This is quantitative, and we can discuss how the laws were forced, and there were numerous doubts about it. I recommend reading the report in detail, where you will find important details. And one more, this is the last thing I need to tell you. This is the growth of supervision. How many governmental governance decisions were waived by the provincial administrative courts, whether these decisions were political or substantive. And we believe if more and more decisions taken by governors, 90% of that make governance and 10% accounting chamber, it is increasing. We have a growing percentage. It's almost 1/3 of all the decisions by the government is waived, deemed wrongly passed. Last but not least, we have the phenomenon which for regular citizen is difficult to detect, those shifts in income structure for the local government, in different fragments of public tasks shifted between different levels of governments are hard to detect. The legislative path and where it is shifted, well, this is highly complex. We name it recentralization with white gloves on, or something deeply hidden, which you can see in international comparisons. Polish local governance index from top in 2013 is in mid-40s in last year. I invite you to the report in detail. Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję. Dziękuję za dyscyplinę czasową. Zapraszam Państwa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being time disciplined. Thank you for presenting this in a hurry. Other speakers are invited. I know how it feels. Thank you very much for setting this up again. Madam Professor is going to take a breath. For the time being, the floor goes to local governors. What's your perception? I know that you are facing this on a daily basis. In your budgets, in your decisions, how would you refer to this? What's your take on this in a more methodological way? It's not presented in detailed percents on daily basis. Recentralization, white gloves, ladies first. Yeah, the mayor ordered that. I could see that. I had the pleasure of being a part of the first index presentation in Sopot, and it was broader at that time. The second part shows you the constant trend, something that we've observed. Finances, because you started with this. There be no consent between me and the mayors, because mayors of cities and towns say more personal income tax, but it's not a solution. No, for increasing personal income tax. Referring to the map that you showed, my commune in Silesia has the presentation of Excel file. This is the wealthiness index of cities, towns and communes. We are in a rich region. We were third from bottom in this index. We were third poorest in Silesia region. We are a bit up, number 8 from the end. It's bluish that we are marked with, so our finances are stable. Being stable doesn't mean okay, it's low. It's low enough that it doesn't change. So as every index shows, it's been measured, but we need to remember how to interpret the bars and how to compare them. I don't know how much time I have, so that everybody's got the possibility to air out opinions. No more about finances. I'd like to speak about the power of the system. There was the decline, not that big. In the case of the decision waived by the administrative courts at the regional recall chamber, there would be more if there were more people employed in local governments to charge them, because there are many decisions we disagree with the majority, but we don't have money and time to sue them because it takes time to charge the decisions. Sometimes, if there are small, minute changes, we do our job, but if we were a bigger one, we would charge some of these and have proceeding in administrative court. We don't do that because of lack of time. Mayor. Local government, can you carry out the task that you've been created for? And reflection of Madam Professor showed. Speaking about tasks, we've got the tasks in the Act and we need to deliver on them, no matter whether we've got financial resources or not. We are worried about this because personal income tax resources are more and more limited. Ongoing expenditure is the task that we care most about compared to the developmental ones. We get printed sheets of paper with different co-financing, and we have to think twice whether we should pick them up. whether we are able to deliver the investments they give the money from the Polish order, to think about the new European perspective. We need to have our own financial contribution. Can we afford it? I pick up any kind of plugs because I'm a proponent of recycling. We reuse them in a different way. We have different ideas. Not everybody is happy with what we do with them. Speaking about institutions, legal supervisions, supervision of Silesia Voivod, or governor, it varies. Sometimes it might be funny, because we might be surprised that similar rulings are waived, but we don't know how they should be corrected because there are no guidelines. So sometimes this is trial and error scheme. I understand how the voivod acts, how the governor acts, because in the previous terms of office they waived fewer decisions. Now there are many. So the National Chamber of Audit requested more controls. Are you done? I can speak at length. But we can see that Mayor is also willing to talk. A comment outside microphone. We cannot hear it in the booth. We do apologize. Sorry. Let's have a second round. Mayor?
Tak, panie prezydencie, przekażemy od razu.
To jestem tytułem naukowym.
So how about the scientific sector?
Ale doktorka.
Doctor. I was going to ask you discreetly. No, I'm a teacher, so I have to say it out loud. So let's be more precise. What the mayor said, you need to carry out the tasks. It's in the act. But I'm speaking real and feasible activities. Do you have to try hard to deliver it and how to shift it? I'm not speaking about the financial resources, but perspectives. How to instill, how to revigorate the city, how to use it. What's your reflection? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have the prescription set. If I had a magic spell, I would have used it and I would be victorious and famous all over Europe for doing great things. For the time being, it hasn't been so. Speaking about the tendencies that you have shown in the report, they are difficult to discuss. So let me start with strategy rather than tactics. 3.3%. It's important, but secondary. What is fundamental is the change in Polish policy at the strategic level, and nobody was concealing it. This change is targeted at two things, or even more, but two are fundamental to my liking. First, brutal centralization or brutal speed, the first thing, and the second, finance provision from the central perspective. It goes to the groups that are political or electoral backup for the ruling party at the cost of the segments that are not this kind of backup. You can see it in the context of personal income tax and many other projects. Result is systemic function is changed into door handle procedure. If you want to get subsidies, you need to know which door handle to press. You have to have friends in the ministry, and it's arbitrary decision. it's not a systemic decision any longer. It's not systemic, and it's arbitrary decision depending on the political decision. Assuming that political decisions are to my benefit, but it's a change of philosophy still. Even if I had lots of minister friends, if we represented the same political group, let's think science fiction for a moment, but it remains as a systemic change. All the checks, I don't know whether you were speaking about the checks that the politicians come with, they are financed from targeted funds. COVID, a demographic reserve, or road fund. All these kind of fire brigades, units, voluntary services, common houses. This is arbitrary. And these were specific funds that were created for some other purpose. And you can build a school, and there is a ring road of Suwałki, or even something more exotic. These things were systemic. Now it's political and arbitrary. So without juggling cases and percentage, you can feel and see centralization. It's cruel. Local governments are more operational rather than central offices. I used to work in 2 ministries as a young guy, different tasks. There's more politics, and these operational tasks are more difficult because we are short of money. Public services is the resultant of amount of money. Less money earmarked, the more difficult it is. Mayor, thank you. You both said that it is patching up and there is no vision for the future, how to develop it. You need to deliver it here and now, and you have to think how to make both ends meet. If we don't look into the future, if we don't think about development, it's difficult to speak about advancement. Professor, how do you see it? Thank you very much. I'm not the co-author of the report. It's a pity. It's a very important source. We'll be using this. We, the local government researchers, I'm looking for an external perspective. It's important to monitor the changes, especially when they skip your notice. Not always are they presented in front of the cameras in the limelight. So monitoring is very important. The fact that it's cyclical, it's a great value. I wanted to start by saying that if we want to have a democratic state, liberal democracy requires local government. We need to have local authorities. It is needed to exercise democracy at its fullest, because it smashes the monopoly of the central government. An efficient way to deliver local public services which are in line with the local environment's needs. There is more self-governance, but I'm indicating the most important ones. If we lose local democracy, if the index declines, it will be more difficult to meet the goals. Our country will work in an inferior way. My favorite part of the report shows the attitude of central government to local governments. One was reverberated. It's a caricature. You know, they give cardboard box checks. Local government people have to thank, so they behave like clients, thanking those who bring in the check, and there's a recipient and a giver. And another one, public means distribution system. This is our joint means 40 billion zlotys was given as targeted funds. 5 anonymous people created a committee that provided grants, and Prime Minister, who was authorized to change the decision, assessed 7,000 applications from local governments and selected the ones that deserve financing. It's anonymous composition, so you couldn't be informed who is on board. So it shows what we reached. It illustrates not only the relations between local governments and the central government, but also shows how the state, that is peace-governed, operates, how it distributes central resources, public resources. We started speaking about the future. I pilot and coordinate expert team in Batory Foundation and practitioners working on specific solutions. What should be done for local governments to be protected against erosion, even if self-government was not destroyed at full, but returning to state before 2015 is not sufficient. You see that it might have been dismantled. There are 3 important pillars. First, recovery of finances, own incomes of local governments. They need to be financially autonomous. If they are not, they are the recipients and the checks are given by the central level government. It's not fair if communes cannot invest to meet the needs, local environment's needs, and they need to open the handles begging for money. Second, destroy the broken local governments, that it's incoherent. This kind of supervision turned out to be inefficient. And voivodes should not be responsible, not the voivode's office that is political, but its philosophy of supervision, what the central level government can waive when a local government decides about something. And there was a total erosion of competence of local governments. The provision that local governments are responsible for anything that we do not decide about at a higher level. And the last thing, the joint government and local government committee as the way to air out opinion on lawmaking process. 40% of acts are bypassed. There is no joint assessment of common committee, and governments have to deliver on that. So we need to strengthen the local government's voice, even at the MP path, as they call it, because this is the fast track for accepting acts without consulting them.
Thank you very much indeed. Adam has swiftly moved to the next questions I've prepared for you. How to restore independence and efficiency to local government. The client attitude in Poland is like the cancer in the state. Weakness of law creation, not only local governance law, but generally central legislation level is poor. How, if you had this magic wand you've mentioned before, how would you use it? Where can you see the key points to restore? I would find 2 such elements. The first one is stabilizing the legal situation, including the reform of local authorities. The recent reform, we know its defects, like counties. I believe now that counties do not help people, but try to build problems to people and municipal authorities. Obviously, it's different in different places, but that's the issue of politics. So would you remove counties, flatten the structure? Yes, that's very true. Well, the original reform had very good assumptions, but during legislation it was actually spoiled. More regions, more counties, more municipalities. In the current situation, where most of the issues can be solved by the internet online, it's not necessary. And municipalities, well, the competences of counties could be split between the marshal and mayors of municipalities to facilitate them truly quickly and close to people. Well, you need to include the share of competences and division of financing. You need to rebuild the system from scratch. After deep analysis, what works wrong, what doesn't work at all. The other element is more of a social issue. People, electorate. I believe that civic education didn't go the good way. We could say it was gone. We see no effects of it. Because people accept what they are told on the television. They are not critical. And this is something we should be teaching from the very early age. And there I can see a great job for all of us, the government, local governments, the parliament, to build education again and engage inhabitants in their lives. We know there are civic budgets, there are activities among village councils where it should work okay, but I feel it doesn't work well. I don't know if Asia agrees with me. So the issues of social civic education would come first for me. What depends on politicians should be implemented ASAP. Thank you, Mayoress. I've been thinking your question about differently. Let me speak about people's involvement. All of us, you here, we local authorities, are responsible for civic education at each and every level. And this is the tool that in the future could spark some hope in us. Because if you are involved and members of our families and the society is engaged and it has knowledge what depends on the mayor, on the county mayor, on the MP, we would be able to rationally speak of what's happening and evaluate it. A necessary component for it is openness and clarity. But there was this panel on populists. My municipality counts 6,500 people. But we also have populist opinions. It doesn't matter if there is enough money, it must sound okay, it must look okay on the Facebook. And that is a great challenge for me. I've spoken about it, facing this strange mentality where a person comes to any office and wants the law enforced. That's okay. But if we enforce any law against them, this mentality goes in. If somebody steals my cow, it's bad. If I steal somebody's cow, it's okay. And if we are the customer to the county authority, or we have clients, or on this parliamentary level, it goes like that. If we want to get something, we take every effort. The other way around, it doesn't go that easy. We all should take care to make our activities transparent. I live in a county where the county mayor was fined with 5,000 zlotys for not providing public information, not disclosing it. And this is a cancer which, regardless of your political opinions and whichever authority is at power, is in our country. We need to think whether the local governments really works well. There are different opinions. If we asked you about 2 terms requirement, I do support it. If somebody is good enough, they can make it in 2 terms at office, but people have different approaches and they can arrange different things in different places. Before me, we had a mayor for 28 years. I believe if I was a mayor for 28 years, it would be disastrous as well. So please remember, let us take care so that the tools are adapted in such a way that the party system does not disturb our activities. Terminating counties, why not? I would go for it. Just one issue that I need to dispute, but that's the teacher in me. I would be very, very cautious with criticizing parties. We will never have good central parties if we have no bottom-up. Perhaps it sounded bad. I'm not criticized parties. I want a system that would be resilient to party attitudes. That's the citizens' approach. In terms of parties, we have a system of parties built from top to bottom, and to the best of my understanding, parties should represent its members. Well, we may discuss why parties are built that way. Mr. Mayor, your wand. Madam. What other speakers have already said? Not much can be added, but I concur that the criticism of parties is not okay. It's very fashionable to criticize parties, but without a party. I do not belong to any party, but generally I need to admit that the parties have their role to play. If I had this magic wand, acknowledging the need of parties in the public system, I would minimize the local politics. Why? It's okay, we have different bodies that impact the Polish system of check and balance, but it's dysfunctional in Poland in the meaning that a large proportion of technical decisions that have nothing to do with ideology, politics, like roads, building permits, daily bread of a local government. There is no great debate, liberalism, conservatism. It's not the field. If you look at my daily agenda, I review numbers, reports, I meet groups of people who report to me and they talk about the jobs. That's technical. We do not discuss the state philosophy. There is no space for it. We discuss how to refurbish, how to arrange money for waste management, heart management. All these elements are more and more influenced by politics in the past 7-8 years. If something is needed, objectively required, and the governor will see a field to block it because there is some political potential, okay, he will veto some zoning plan or some other authority in charge of allocating money. Well, let's move the money to the municipality from my political option, and you can multiply such examples. You cannot remove it systemically, but you can try to reduce it. Ever since the Polish state has been existing, it's never been perfect, and some things have never been so bright. Another thing is the issue of finance. With all the cuts, you cannot explain many things to people. It's so complex. And with this polarized debate, public discussions, emotions act far more than the program. I have had 75 meetings during 5 years of my deputy president's term, deputy mayor term, and where there were emotional topics, and I show the slide of tax pyramid. I talk about the pit, the free amount. It's difficult to discuss because the discussion is dominated by emotions. Emotions are very difficult to control, and changing regular money streams and arbitrary subsidies is one of the biggest pathologies. Even if the money is in total smaller, but certain, guaranteed, and we have fixed frames, not thinking how much we get from the result, how much do we get from the motion, it will be far easier, because the existence and operations of a city or of the municipality, whichever region we choose, is not truly romantic, but harsh operational realia. The systemic changes make the role of politics enormous, which it didn't used to be like that. For instance, the governor in everyday conversation is considered to be local authority. It's wrong. He is delegated by the government. He's nominated by the Prime Minister or the Minister of Interior. He's a representative of the government, and he's in systemic clash with each mayor of regional city. In Poland we have over 100 cities where we have the president by Polish, and the government only have only 3 mayors in those cities are from the current government party. Nevertheless, it's 4 or 5, 4.5. The point is, they are in drastic minority. Majority of cities are apart, and all regional capitals, save for Katowice, but they are coming back to normal. They are all in the systemic collision with the governing party, and you can see that in all the policies. If I had this magic wand, I would put more objectivism and less arbitrary decisions, even if the money is smaller but certain. So not just systemic changes, but removing this client approach, this begging. That's awful, and it has escalated. This magic word, arrange, manage. He managed. Adam talked to Rysiek, he can manage anything. This shouldn't work like this. Even if he arranges or manages in a municipality like mine, it's difficult to run the project, not just because you do not have your own contributions, because you cannot process the money if you don't know it. We cannot spend, we cannot have current spendings above current income. current income is either stable or dropping, and current income is for hiring people. We cannot hire more people because we have no money to pay, and the basic wages will go up next year, so we cannot hire more people. Whoever works with us is overworked, work too much. We do what we can, still worried that the money can be lost, but it's at the expense of people. We cannot hire more staff. The mayor mentioned about polarization. I think it's not just the issue of polarization, but it's far more serious. It's post-truth period. If we do not use the truth, we go for emotions in management, transferring information, and this post-truth eliminates the controlling media. We are back to item 1. Professor, what about your conclusions? Your task is difficult. Together with the professor, you need to sum it up to get some optimism. Optimistically. I must say, thank you very much for your opinions. It was very valuable, and I enjoyed listening to them. They contributed to different things we verify from behind our desks. I wanted to start in general because Adam started talking about how to fix, and it would be our leap forward into the future and think what we can do with this very sad diagnosis. I also run research that verifies what local authorities say to that, how they react to the centralization pressure in different local governments, and what we hear is this great question: who's supposed to defend local governments? Who in the state is supposed to fight to restore this, not the other, financing system, controlling system? This is the key question for us. The question is who can carry that. Adam, 10 seconds for you. What's optimistic? We still have people from local governments devoted to local communities, and a round of applause for them. Thank you for the report on behalf of the Batory Foundation. Thank you for your presence, especially to Mr. Mayor, due to known reasons, and invite you to discuss further in the lobby.
Jestem z zawodu lekarzem, zajmowała się diagnostyką chorób nowotworowych.
W Białorusi zajmowałam się mikrobiologią.